Thank you, Lily. Good to see you.
Yes, I would love to give an introduction for you if you don't mind letting me read a bit of your bio.
Oh, I would love it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are very lucky to have Betty LaMarr as one of our board of directors here at the State of Women Institute. My name is Lily Allen Duenas. I am the interim executive director of the State of Women, and I want to introduce Betty with her session today, Empower Her Betty LaMarr's Journey from Single Mom to Single Grandma. Betty LaMarr is a powerhouse. I mean, we have so much respect for her here at the State of Women and are just, as I said, honored to have someone with so much experience and expertise and insight and wisdom to bring to our board. I'm going to read a bit about her via her bio. So I'm just going to plow through that and just go, get into all the juicy bits. And so we can honor and acknowledge all of her accomplishments and experiences. So Betty LaMarr is the author and founder of Empower Her Institute and is a passionate servant leader committed to being a spark to ignite transformation in girls' and women's lives. After a successful corporate career while living in South Africa, Betty saw girls and women who lived with dignity in poverty through her entrepreneurial spirit. She also saw what happens when women gain access to even modest opportunities for empowerment. Empowered women discover independence, girls seek education, lives change for entire families. So inspired by her South African experience, Betty returned to the US. She founded Empower Her Institute in 2003 with a small group of committed friends focused on improving the lives of women and girls. They saw the epidemic of 5 out of 10 minority teens dropping out of high school. That was the start of Empower Her Girls Academy. Betty passed on the legacy of Empower Her Institute in January 2021, this year. The organization continues to focus on gender equity, social and economic justice. So Betty did earn her BA in Business Administration from California State University in Los Angeles and an MBA from Pepperdine. Today, Betty is redesigning her next chapter. She is also serving on nonprofit boards and blogging to encourage women to travel to improve self-care and self-love. So everyone, please help me give a warm welcome to Betty LaMarr. Post in the chat, let us know where you're coming in from, and let's give her a warm welcome. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you so much, Lily. Appreciate it. I didn't know you had the long version.
Hey, you're fantastic. You deserve every word. I love the long version.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. And I know it's afternoon in some places, and it is morning still here in Los Angeles. So I am thrilled to be here with all of you for the Summit for Moms. We all wear so many hats, don't we? But we don't often get a chance to strut our mom hat. So here we are, 3 days that we get to strut our mom hats. So I'm just so glad that the State of Women Institute seems to always be in step with the times and the critical narrative for women worldwide. With the pandemic, more light is being shined on women and their role as parents and caregivers. I don't know if most of you got to listen to Rianne Eisler, but undoubtedly she's given us some food for thought about the value of women and caregivers in our economic picture. And I certainly walked away with a call to action to do more to advocate and to better understand the role that women play. And she certainly provided a different lens for me to look at our roles in the economy and our responsibility to make our voices heard, to create the systems change that I think we all know needs to happen.
And Betty, I'm going to give you the whole stage. So I'm going to hop off now, but
okay.
just
go. Thank you. Thank you, Lily. So let me share a little bit about my credentials as a mom and now a grandmother. Really, the subtopic here is living life by example. I must admit that I didn't get here as part of a master plan. I didn't get to be a mom as part of a master plan. I got here by what I considered to be a mistake. However, that mistake turned out to be the most significant accomplishment in my life. That mistake turned out to be my son And my accomplishment was raising a Black man in America. So I have one son and I have two grandkids. My grandson is at NYU studying hip hop, and my granddaughter is 16 and she's in high school. So whether you're a new mom, an experienced mom, or a grandmother, when we think about what we want for our kids, I think we all want the same thing. We want them to be safe, we want them to be healthy, and we want them to be successful. So let me tell you a little bit about my upbringing, because our context really kind of informs our journey. So until the age of 13, I grew up in a small southern town in Arkansas called Pine Bluff. I grew up in the segregated South. And then I moved to Compton, California. And for some of you, you may know what that is. You've heard it in the hip hop songs, but it is an urban city here in Southern California. And so I moved to Compton with my grandparents because they were giving me an opportunity to get out of Arkansas so that I could get a better education and ultimately a career. So sometimes, when you're given opportunity, it doesn't always work out the way that you plan it. So my high school graduation experience was a bit different from many others because I was pregnant. That was a difficult period, deciding what path I would take. In fact, I was very disappointed in myself because I had dreams of going to college. I was going to be the first one in my family of 8 children, and I'm number 7 to go to college. I became a wife instead of a college student, and then a soon-to-be mother. It wasn't easy finding my way. And being a teenager, I wasn't prepared to be either a wife or a mother. So I'd like to say that instead of choosing my path, it chose me. It wasn't until 2 years later that I left the marriage and became a single mom raising my son. So now here I am, a high school dropout, not a high school dropout, but a pregnant teen right out of high school. And if we look at the stats in America, we can see that there are some stats that show a very high dropout rate of teen mothers in high school. In fact, the stats say that less than 2% of teen moms end up getting a college degree by the age of 30. I'm proof that it's possible to continue your education. And did I have some difficulties? Absolutely. But I pushed through. So I ended up finishing college by the time I was 25. So I was a late bloomer. And then I got a job offer and joined corporate America in IBM sales. So yes, there were twists and turns along the way. And this is where the whole mother thing comes in, right? I had to find childcare for my son. I also worked at night and went to school during the day. And now my son and I reflect and kind of laugh now about how he had to sit at the table and read a book when I was studying because, he couldn't go outside. And he came to love reading and did well in school. In fact, I was pleased that, as moms, we always look for signs that say we're doing a good job. And the fact that he enjoyed reading at a very early age, he was tested at genius level and was reading to my grandfather, reading the Bible to my grandfather. So I was absolutely elated. But as a single parent, I wanted to make sure that my son had what I could only imagine for myself because it wasn't available to me. I saw very early on the fact that we lived in an area where gangs were becoming prevalent, that his needs were not going to be met just going to a public school. And so I made it a priority to put him in a school that would enhance and complement his capability. So I sent him to private school to avoid the gangs and drugs in our neighborhood. After a few years in my corporate job, again, as a mother, you're always looking for how can you make things better for your child, because it wasn't for me. And I was a single mom, so clearly suburbs wasn't where I wanted to be, but it was the best place for my son. So after a few years in my corporate job, I moved us to the suburbs so that my son would be able to ride his bicycle on the sidewalk without getting hijacked by the bullies. Now, some of you may not know what that's like, but just stick with me. So I was able to push through because I was determined not to let my circumstances define my destiny. And what I mentioned earlier about my pregnancy being a mistake, it ended up really being my motivation in so many ways. And I learned so much in that journey. And one of the things that I realized, and part of how I developed the plan for my son, was when you know better, you do better. So I had, even being a single mom, I had gotten access to opportunities, getting a job at IBM, going to college, even though it was late. And so I learned things that my parents could have never taught me because they didn't know it. And that's what I mean when I say, when you know better, you do better. And so it allowed me to be an example, not only for my son, but an inspiration to my family members and others. So when I look today at the things that moms worry about, because we spend a lot of time worrying, I look at, again, many of the worries are the same as they were for me. And let me just tell you, I'm about to approach 72, 73. I lost count, stopped counting. But my son's 54 now. But the things that I worried about then, many parents are still worried about. And some of those worries that that mothers and parents are worried about: safety, well-being, a good education. And we also look at, are we providing the right balance of love and independence? We're always asking ourselves, are you giving your child the right amount of attention, or are you working too much? So we're always struggling with that balance. And as a single mom, I had a few more worries. And as a Black single mom, I had additional concerns. I felt that I wouldn't be authentic if I wasn't sharing with you both our similarities and our differences in terms of our journey of motherhood. So one of the things, as a Black single mom, I had the additional concerns of protecting my Black son from society's idea of him being a threat, and therefore treated differently in school and social situations. Another big concern that I had, and even parents have it today: would he be subject to police brutality? As I said, we have a lot of common concerns as parents, but understand that as a single Black mom, there are additional concerns. And as Lily mentioned, I started this organization called Empower Her Institute, which was focused on teen girls in under-resourced communities. And I know that our Black girls have some of the same concerns that we have for our Black boys. And that is that we are concerned about how they're treated in social situations. We're concerned about them being sexualized and treated as though they are adults when in fact they're kids. And so there are some unique mothering challenges that we have as moms with Black kids. And so I think it's important to share this with you, because if we are all to solve this problem that we have of creating a more caring society, of advocating for girls and women, it's important for us to understand all women's problems and that we look beyond just our own household and our own family structure. So one of the things that I did, because as you can tell, it's been a long time since I was a mother. So I said, what are parents worried about? What are the worries top of mind for parents today? And then I broke it down and I said, what are the worries of single moms today? And I want to just share some of these things with you because it was quite enlightening for me. Because let me just say to you, as a single mom, I wasn't looking for books about how to be a single mom or how to raise my son. As a teen mom, I was just like a duck in water. I was just trying to keep staying afloat. But some of the things that were highlighted in my research was the fact that as a single mom, one of the big concerns is that you have no one to turn to. And again, the pandemic has really highlighted a lot of this because when you think about it, you heard a lot about how parents, the mother and the father were managing through all of the virtual training and schooling that the kids had to do. Well, as a single mom, you have no one to turn to. So it's all on you. You don't have a backup. One of the other things is that you're making decisions alone. And so you only have yourself to blame because you don't have anybody else to bounce it off of and say, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think this is the right path or the right decision for me to make for my child? Another one is self-doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Did I have self-doubt? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I had to just do what I thought I was the best that I knew how to do for my child at that time. Stress about money, that's today, that was yesterday. And hopefully when we create some of the changes that we're talking about advocating today, that it won't be tomorrow. But right now, stress about money is one of them. And then as a single mom, you know that you don't represent the ideal, that nuclear family that everybody has in their heads that exists. And I think all of us are realizing that that's more of a fantasy than a reality about that 2.1 kids and, the perfect little family. But that creates a level of concern and stress for a single mom because she's not operating in that, and people will use language where they're speaking to her as though she has that kind of structure or that kind of support system. And then as a single mom, we feel like we need to be super mom. We got to be the mom, the dad, and everything else that child needs. And again, I want to emphasize some additional concerns that we as Black mothers have, and that is whether our kids will be victims of police brutality. There's a real serious issue around childcare and costs. I mean, we're hearing a lot of conversation right now that has elevated the conversation during the pandemic, but it's real. It's real every day for Black mothers. And then there's the sickness and health. It becomes a crisis when our child gets sick because, again, you have no backup. You got to take off from work. Your job's in jeopardy, which is providing you the income that you need in order to take care of that child. And then the fact that Black mothers have to deal with the negative assumptions that teachers and administrators make about their kids in school. And again, we ask ourselves, are we working too much or are we working enough? And so let me just also say, for those of you who may not understand how poverty can render someone powerless from succeeding and why communities and organizations really must step in to help, let me explain. So the thing to remember about poverty is that it is a condition, and it's a condition that can be changed for individuals. No one was born impoverished, right? So when we think about poverty rendering someone powerless, we have to think about the surroundings and the situations people in poverty endure. When you wake up every day and your worry is about your basic needs for food, shelter, and safety, that doesn't give you a lot of room to dream. You talk about visualizing what you want and manifesting it. But by the way, this happened to women who may not have children, who might have been married to wealthy husbands, and all of a sudden they end up divorced and find themselves living paycheck to paycheck and homeless and facing homelessness. That's real in today's society. So when it's all said and done, motherhood is a big responsibility, no matter who you are. And I know I got about 10 minutes left, but I just wanted to focus on just three areas of concern. And one, because again, I believe that we're living life by example. And there are three questions that I wanted to answer. How do I make sure that my children are safe, healthy, and successful? Am I preparing my child for the real world? And should I raise my child to be aware of the problems in our society and therefore part of the solution? So I'm going to run through this quickly because I do want to answer any questions that you may have of me. So when we talk about how do I make sure that my children are safe, healthy, and successful, one of the things that I think about is that we all want our children to be in the best environment so that they can thrive. And so we create opportunities that build their character, their resiliency, and their intellect. And very often what we do is involve them in school activities as well as community-based activities, such as volunteerism. So these are all things that we can do to create an environment. And that was really the basis of founding Empower Her Institute for teen girls in under-resourced communities, because I knew that they didn't have access to a lot of these kind of opportunities. And so it was built on three principles: mentorship, exposure, and real world experiences, because we realize that you can't be what you cannot see. And so we wanted to create an environment for these teen girls to be able to see their mentors as role models, to go out on field trips where they get to see things beyond their community, and to have some hands-on experience. And then the other one is, am I preparing my child for the real world? Because a lot of times we really protect and keep our kids in a bubble and believe that they shouldn't know what's really going on. And I was guilty of that. In raising my son, I thought that if I exposed him to my experiences in segregating and marching in civil rights and trying to integrate lunch counters, I thought it would limit his beliefs about his capabilities. And I realized that in hindsight that I did him a disservice, because he didn't have an appreciation for where his benefits had come from, and the fact that it wasn't so long ago that the freedoms that he's enjoying were not available to me. And so at the end of the day, I say lead by example, because the way you live your life is the best way to prepare your children, because they're not just listening to what you say, they are also watching what you do. And then the last question is, should I raise my child to be aware of the problems and therefore part of the solution? Again, we look at the social justice, we look at all of the gender equality issues, sexual harassment, environmental justice, all of these negative impacts in the community. And I think we all want our kids to be part of the solution in doing that. And so at the end of the day, motherhood is a journey. We won't know how well we've done for many years down the road. And just recently, I sat in on one of my son's webinars on diversity and inclusion, because he's a veteran in improv. And so he was talking in this improv industry group. And it just warmed my heart to hear so many of the participants express appreciation to him for opening doors to them and guiding them in their career decisions. And talking about his role in the industry, my son has never spoken about it. But it was just satisfying to me that the character and the compassion that he has learned is helping others along the way. And so the question you asked, was it nurture or was it nature? I will never know. So I want to thank you for listening, and I'm going to pause and take any questions that you might have.
Hi, Betty. Lily, back on stage here. I don't think that I saw any questions actually posted in the chat. Just wanted to let you know. But we did have a question about do you think is your biggest challenge as a mother?
My biggest challenge as a mother was really making decisions to put my son in environments that were, in my mind, not necessarily friendly environments, because he was like the only Black kid in many of these environments. But I thought that it would serve him best in the long run because of the kind of education that he was getting, and ultimately it did serve him well. And so I had to actually make a decision: did I focus on his Blackness, or did I focus on him as a citizen of the world? And I basically made the decision to focus on him as a citizen of the world, if you will. And so he ended up graduating from Yale University. And as I said, he's a successful actor with 2 amazing kids and a beautiful wife.
Wow. That's amazing. Yale. And I'm glad that he's doing so well. And I do want to do one more. Question from the chat is, what can we do to improve childcare for single mothers in our country?
Listen, if I had the answer to that, I'd probably be on Joe Biden's cabinet. I really wish I had the answer. I have relatives who are in the childcare business, who are, providing childcare for working mothers. And I know it's a challenge, and I can't tell you that I have the answer to it, but we have to collectively continue to make childcare affordable, because right now, so many mothers are paying as much in childcare, half of their income is going to childcare. And that's just because they are concerned, as we all are, about keeping their kids safe.
Absolutely. It's unacceptable where it's at right now. And I agree that we have to continue that conversation and make sure that it's top of mind for the administration or for the movers and shakers and in our communities and in our global community, or I don't know how to put it best. Betty, you're the speaker, but I agree with you.
No,
and
it's
I
awesome.
want to ask, one of my questions is, what is something you would like to acknowledge your mother for?
So thank you for asking that. My mother's deceased. She passed probably about 7 years ago, but she lives in me every day. And so what I want to acknowledge my mother for is my determination and my resiliency.
Ooh, powerful things to be given.
I'm serious. I mean, we have stories about my mom, whether she had hip surgery or any kind of thing going on with her. It did not stop my mother. She was determined to maintain her independence. She'd get in her car and drive with her stick on the gas pedal. We'd be scared, but listen, that's my mother. Okay, she was the bomb.
Oh, I love that. I'm sorry that she's no longer with us, but I love those stories. My grandmother's 96, and she still 2 years ago went kayaking by herself.
Oh my God. Right?
She's totally determined as well, right, about the autonomy and independence, and she's still by herself and is kicking. We're very lucky.
Yes, totally.
That's
well, I
great.
think I got to jump into another session. I hope you will all join me in the session coming up for, we're calling it the Marshall Plan.
We are. Yes, it's going to be amazing. So if you're here in this session with Betty and you want more Betty, and who doesn't want more Betty? Let's follow her over to Marshall Plan for Moms, and we're going to continue the party in that session. So hop out of this one, leave this one, follow us on over to the next.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.